Hanu steak, like I think anyone.
Samgyeopsal, where the fat drips into the kimchi.
Dark Korean style. I really like it. We don't jam as much as jazz.
안녕하세요. 오늘 진행을 맡은 시민 크리에이터 진세빈입니다. 여러분은 오케스트라에서 가장 빛나는 악기는 뭐라고 생각하시나요? 반짝반짝 빛이 나면서 매혹적인 음색을 가진 금관악기가 아닐까 생각되는데요. 그래서 오늘은 서울시향의 트럼펫터와 트롬보니스트 분을 만나서 얘기 나눠보도록 하겠습니다. 안녕하세요.
안녕하십니까.
네, 영상을 보는 분들께 자기소개 부탁드리겠습니다.
Hello, my name is Jason Crimmy and I'm a trombonist. I'm from Annapolis, Maryland on the East Coast, in between Baltimore and Washington, D.C.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey Holbrook, and I'm the Associate Principal Trumpet of the Seoul Philharmonic Orchestra. I'm originally from Illinois in the United States.
서울시향에서 연주하신 지 얼마나 되셨나요?
16년 됐어요, 이제. 저는 2006년 말에 들어왔어요.
We actually started on the very same day in 2006. We arrived together.
That was a long time ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we went to Outback Steakhouse for our first meal.
Oh yeah. Why was
Actually,
that?
no, we went to that. What's the name of that cuisine that we went? The King's.
We went to like this King Sejong style, like 옛날 cuisine, 옛날 한국 전통.
We didn't know what anything.
Yeah, we didn't know where to go to eat, but yeah, we gradually figured out the best food to eat in Korea after a while.
그러면 각자 좋아하시는 한국 음식 탑3 얘기해 주실 수 있나요?
I'd say first one is probably really good Hanu steak, like I think anyone.
Samgyeopsal, where the fat drips into the kimchi. You put the kimchi on here, and then the fat comes down. And then you take...
제가 느끼기에는 금관악기가 되게 웅장하기도 하고 또 화려하기도 하잖아요. 그래서 오케스트라에서 금관악기의 역할이 뭘지 좀 궁금합니다.
I think that, in my opinion, there's not a particular role per se, because each composer treats the brass instruments a little bit differently. However, perhaps, particularly for trombone, because since I'm a trombonist, I know the most about that, it was probably added to the orchestra at first to provide power and a different color, and also to support the chorus, or the choral pieces, like the alto, tenor, and bass voices. But and also the trombone is kind of a unique instrument in that there was a time period where it kind of fell out of favor in secular music, but it was used in churches all the time. So some composers, it's kind of like opening the gates of heaven, while other composers, it's kind of like opening the gates of hell.
The trumpet is a little bit different because going back to the era of Mozart and Beethoven, we could only play like 4 or 5 notes total because we didn't have the valves that we have on a trumpet now. So we basically sounded exactly like the timpani, which was just playing 5-1, 5-1, 1-1-1-1. And so the parts weren't all that interesting, but still important. Since they invented the valves which let us play all the notes, it's kind of similar to the trombone where it really just depends on how the composers want to use us. But usually we're there to add a lot of power and brightness and excitement.
그러면 이제 말씀하신 것처럼 오케스트라에서 연주할 수 있는 악기도 많고 또 금관악기 종류도 되게 많잖아요. 근데 이제 트럼펫과 트롬본을 특별히 선택하신 이유가 있는지 궁금합니다.
For me, the trumpet was special in my family. My great-grandfather played trumpet, and my grandfather played trumpet, and my dad did not play the trumpet. But we always kind of had it in the family. Just when I was a little kid, we could just go to my grandfather's house and try it.
Actually, there's some similarities. My father played trombone like through high school and even a bit into college. It wasn't his major, but there was just one in the house. There was a trombone lying around in the house, and he kind of would, get it out and play Happy Birthday on it or something.
그럼 잠깐만 좀 들려주실 수 있나요?
Some. And then, if you there's a lot of effects you can do with your tongue as well. On every brass instrument. So one of the most famous ones and easy ones to learn is fluttering. Some languages have that, right? So if you do it at the same time, you get this effect that's really common in also jazz music. You can kind of do this and I like, when we go to elementary schools, I like to play some sound effects, especially if they like combining those two things, sounding like a motorcycle. So, I mean, there's more I could do, but I don't want to break this room, So.
I think it's also interesting for those who don't know exactly how the different brass instrument works. The basic thing is the longer the instrument, the lower the note plays. So for trumpet, instead of using a slide to make the instrument longer, we have the valves here. And each valve that we push down adds a little bit additional slide to the thing. So that's actually how the trumpet can play all the notes. Because if you play it all in one fingering, this is the trumpet that they had back in Mozart's day, where you could only play a few notes. But each time that I push down a valve, it adds length of the slide, which helps me play all the notes. So it's similar to the trombone, though we're just adding more slide to play lower notes. Yeah. But Jason in the trombone just does it with one slide, and I do it with my valves. Yeah.
그래서 그 겉으로 보기에 금관악기가 좀 무거워 보이고 또 관리가 좀 힘들 것 같은데 어떻게 생각하시나요?
저는 개인적으로 생각한다면 그렇게 무겁지 않지만 그 금관악기 중에 트롬본 제일 힘들 것 같아요. It's not symmetrical. It's not. There's two. So you have you're holding on one side. However, all of the brass instruments are designed in such a way that the weight distribution is kind of ideal for lifting it up.
I think one important thing that I have to work with students when I teach them is that they really have to keep their body relaxed.
그럼 이제 금관악기를 풀 때 좀 굉장히 길고 또 좀 깊은 숨이 필요할 것 같아요. 이 호흡을 위해서 이렇게까지 해봤다 하는 게 있을까요?
Actually, you have the same lung capacity, I guess, as you get older. It's more that the lungs get less elastic. So you have to work on it, and so you have to make sure you eat enough like fruits and vegetables. So that actually helps, like especially apples. Also, doing some exercise is good. I mean, I should do more, but I used to swim. Swimming is one of the best.
For me, I think that building lung capacity is not the most important thing, at least for trumpet. I think that we play so much every day that for me, it naturally works itself out. What I think is a little bit more important is the strength to be able to push the air really fast. So after you breathe, the key thing for playing the trumpet is you need the air to go really fast in order to play all the high notes.
공연 전에 나는 꼭 이걸 하는 게 있다라고 하는 자기만의 루틴이나 습관 같은 게 있을까요?
My routine before concerts is that I actually don't eat anything.
난 완전 반대예요. 연주하기 전에 엄청 많이 먹고, 왜냐하면 연주할 때 너무 약하게 나면 안 돼요.
완전 정반대네요.
Yes.
아, 트럼펫이랑 트롬본이 같이 이제 두드러지는 협주곡을 추천해 주실 수 있나요?
Like there's one like 대표적인 concerto 하나 있어요. Ferdinand David concerto. It's kind of like on every audition, especially in Europe, and it's kind of the golden standard.
I would recommend to all our watchers that if you want to really see what the trumpet can do, to find the trumpet soloist Håkan Hardenberger. He's come and played with the Philharmonic many times over the years, and he is just pushing the limits of what people think is possible on the trumpet, and he's been doing it for his 40-year career. So it's just really exciting to see what he can do with the trumpet, because 20 years ago, trumpet players wouldn't even imagine to be able to play the sort of music that's possible now. That's one thing. One difference between like classical musicians and jazz musicians. We don't jam as much as jazz musicians.
Yeah.
It's a good way for young kids to kind of get introduced to classical music is through movies and video game music now, which have big orchestra scores that are really exciting.
그 영화 얘기가 나와서 그런데 혹시 넷플릭스 드라마 오징어 게임 들어보신 적 있나요?
네, 참 끝까지
Yeah.
봤어요. Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
I really liked it. I kind of like the dark Korean style of it.
좋았기는 했는데 한 번만 보는 게 충분해요. 왜냐면 너무 짠인해서. 그러면 좋았는데 짠인한 장면 너무 많아서.
오징어 게임에서 이제 하이든 트럼펫 협주곡 3악장
Yeah.
이 새로운 게임 등장할 때마다 나왔다고 하더라고요. 혹시 반가우시진 않았나요?
I was really surprised when I saw that, but it's probably the most famous trumpet concerto that every trumpet player has played before. But before, everyone thought of the Haydn Trumpet Concerto as a very happy, very positive sort of theme. Everybody is smiling. But then Squid Game took it to this next level where they started the game to maybe end in their death. So it's turned a little bit darker now. So when people ask me to play it, I'm always wondering, why do you want me to play that? So, but I'll play a little bit for you just so you can hear.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's really a friendly note.
Yeah, no, it was always written to try to be just a really cheerful number. But that's one thing I kind of love about Squid Game is they take things that look like they're really happy, like red light, green light, and then go totally dark. And that's the surprising thing about the movie is no one was expecting what happens when they start playing that game.
오늘 이렇게 연주자분들이랑 대화를 나눠보니까 뭔가 트럼펫이랑 트롬본이랑 좀 더 가까워지고 싶은 마음이 있는데 혹시 추천해주고 싶은 서울시향 공연이 있을까요?
We have a special concert coming up on September 4th. It's going to be in the Yonsei Kumhal Art Hall. And it's going to feature mainly the brass, but also of our woodwind players of our orchestra. We're going to be playing a brass quintet, and we're going to be playing a brass sextet, which is 6 musicians. We're going to be playing a piece for 8 musicians, brass and woodwinds, and then there's going to be a woodwind quintet that we're playing. It's really going to give all of our members a chance to really be featured without having to be in the large setting with all of the strings and the conductor and everything. So it's going to be a really good chance to really hear the different styles and textures and sounds of all the brass and woodwind instruments. We're also preparing to do our first tour since COVID hit. In October, as an orchestra, we're going with our music director, Osmo Vanska, to Europe. And we're going to be having stops in Salzburg, Vienna,
Amsterdam,
London.
London.
그러면 이제 서울 시향만의 매력이 뭐가 있을까요?
I think the charm of Seoul Philharmonic. We had many influences over the years. There was, Chung Myung-hoon and Osmo Venska. We've kind of absorbed these influences, as well as, the Korean musicians, and there's been European musicians, American musicians. So perhaps, we've created our own style.
I think one of the things that makes Seoul Philharmonic really unique is that both our audience and most of the members of the orchestra are a lot younger than if you were to look at a lot of the big orchestras in Europe and the United States. If you go to the United States, it's just truthful. Most of the people that attend concerts are retirees in their 60s and 70s and 80s. But if you look out at the audience at Seoul Philharmonic concerts, our audience is much younger, many people in their 30s and 40s and 50s. And I think it's because those age people are the people that kind of grew up doing piano lessons and violin lessons and really came up listening to classical music. Much before that, closer to the war, there wasn't that much classical music around Korea. So not only is our orchestra kind of growing, but we're also expanding and getting older with our audience. And I think if we look at the audience in 20 and 30 years, it's going to be a really wide range of types of people that come to our concerts. Our audience is growing every year, which in Europe and the United States is not the case. It's an exciting place to be for classical music. 구독,
좋아요.
알림 설정
부탁해요.